Okay, so, oh yeah, I've got an earpiece thing I'm gonna put in here too. Did you have, yeah. And first, we do have a couple of forms they need us to have you sign that basically just um, say that you know, and they explain this class that we're doing and your willingness to participate in it, you know, by letting us interview you. And then the other one is you're agreeing to let us audio tape your voice like this, you know, record your voice like this, and let
I
us.
also might take some pictures. That's alright. More pictures.
Okay.
Well, like for example, before we leave, I think we'll see if we can get a picture of you in front of the house or in the house or something.
Okay.
So, did you, you know, feel like you had any kind of clear idea what this project is that we're doing, or maybe we could help give you a better sense of what all this is?
Give me a little better sense of what it's called.
Yeah, so the class is, so we're studying the neighborhood, including, you know, starting with the houses, and then also the people that live here, and to get a clear sense. I think I've got the wrong microphone on here. Let me just pause this. Thanks. And so if
You already signed it then?
that's the professor signed it down there. It looks like, right?
It says pen the name of person obtaining consent. So
Oh, should I take a look?
there's a name down there.
Yeah, that would be our professor,
Okay.
Professor Regent Sen. Yeah, I think we got it covered here.
Okay.
So let's see. Oh, and before we forget, if we didn't mention it before, when it's all like over the next few weeks, we will create a sheet that will have the drawing of the house that we created. You know, just kind of like a floor plan of the house, and a description about the house, maybe a couple of pictures. And so that's something that we'll give you if you find that, you know, interesting at all. This kind of record about the house that we developed.
Okay.
Yeah, whether you do or don't find it interesting. You know, what we're really wanting to find out about is, you know, your story as this person who lives here in Washington Park. And as we do this interview here today, what I'm going to do, I think we're pretty much going to go in sort of like three phases. It'll be basically, I'll ask you about you a little bit, tell us about yourself a little bit, your life, you know, maybe your past. And then the next part would be talking about the house, to the extent that, you know, you have a connection with this house at all. And the third would be talking about the neighborhood and your experience with it. So I'll just start out with some kind of easy autobiographical or biographical information for you. So, like,
Okay.
actually, first of all, if I didn't introduce myself before, my name is Matt Latham, and we do want to thank you for doing this with us. We really appreciate your letting us into your home and making the time. Would you like to, for the interview, introduce yourself?
My name is TimRichardson, and I've been in this neighborhood for about 35, 36 years.
All right. Where were you born?
Jackson, Mississippi.
And you want to tell us at all about your parents and their occupations?
Well, both of my parents are deceased, very recent, so that's about the extent of that. My mother just passed away last September, so she also lived in here for about 36 years in this neighborhood.
But when you were a kid coming up, what kind of life did you guys have?
Well, average life around here. believe it or not, it was interesting. We wasn't the richest people over here, but we fit in just like the rest, all the rest of the families around here. Middle to lower class, I should say, as far as income goes. Uh, Other than that, it was quite fun. There was a lot of basketball playing amongst the neighborhoods around here. We used to challenge guys from other neighborhoods, and we used to also do a lot of recreation with the church at the corner. They used to have summer basketball leagues, summer after school programs, and spent a lot of time at the church up there and at the park over here on 31st and Brown.
I'm going to take just a moment and see if I should increase the level that it records at. I think that's a good idea. Okay, great. Thanks. How old are you?
I'm 48 now.
48.
Yeah.
And so do you remember much about your youth? Was it in Mississippi before you came here?
No, it was basically here in Milwaukee. I moved to Milwaukee, and I was only 3 months old when my family moved here. And been here ever since.
Oh, okay. And let's see, siblings, brothers and sisters?
I have 4 brothers, 1 deceased, and 1 sister. And I was the second oldest to those.
Like I said, this part of the interview is easy for both of us because I'm just reading from a list.
Okay.
Let's see. So you live here at 1641 North.
This is 1741.
1741.
No, but I didn't live here. I lived around the corner at 3110 West Walnut Street
For a long time?
for about 37 years.
All right.
Yeah, well, not 37 years straight. At one point, I moved back in with my mother when she got sick before she deceased. So, yeah, I moved away for 14 years, but I was here every day in the neighborhood because this is where all my friends grew up at. This is where all my friends were. So either on the way home from work or on the weekends, I would hit this neighborhood. I mean, it was like a ritual to hit this neighborhood every day on my way home from work, or depending on what time I started work, on my way to work.
How far away was away?
54th and Valete first. That wasn't far. And then 47th and Chambers and 56th and Chambers.
Sure.
So it was never real far. At the time I had a vehicle, so it wasn't far at all to me.
How much school did you go to?
The 11th grade and then a GED.
Mm-hmm. And you ever been married, had kids?
I have 3 kids. They're up there on the picture. Not married, but in a 14-year relationship.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, what's your occupation?
Right now, I'm just a handyman. My former occupation was social security, social work. I did a 12-year stint in social work, and that kind of phased out because some programs didn't get refunded. Agency lost money, and therefore I was laid off from that. And then ever since then, I was just, wherever I can find employment, I take that. Most recent was concrete core hole driller for a company called Procore based out of Waukesha. And that lasted for about a year. And work slowed down there, and so they laid me off. Recently called me back, but there were some conditions that they didn't want to meet due to some promises that they had made to me before they laid me off. So they didn't want to bring me back under those conditions, so I really didn't want to go back.
So this kind of work that you do these days, this handyman work, it seems like perhaps it kind of fits the kind of things happening in this neighborhood. Like this house is having a lot of things done to it.
Yes.
Looks like there's a lot of kind of work being done on places around the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's work being done on them, but a lot of the work that's actually being done is by, contractors or people like me. It's not really, it's financially backed by the owner, but there's not a lot of homeowners that actually, well, put it this way, I'm not a homeowner, but I do a lot of work around here.
Yeah, and
So,
do you have any thoughts about having lived in this neighborhood a long time and then seeing like things getting done, work getting done on houses around here?
I think it's a nice thing. There's a lot of still vacant houses in this area, and it's there's a lot of places that this used to be a pretty nice looking neighborhood at one time, and then you get some landlords who don't want to take care of their properties, and then the properties become torn down, vacant lots, and I mean I've seen maybe 50, 60 houses in my youth that are not here today. So, and probably even more than that. I mean, I can walk down the street, any street in this zip code, and say, "Damn, I remember when a house used to be there, or I remember that house that used to be there, or I remember hanging out in the house that used to be here." So, there's a lot of those are gone.
Can you tell us about that Washington Park of your youth? Washington Park neighborhood of your childhood?
Of my childhood?
Yeah, what was it like around here?
Around here?
Yeah.
Well, in my youth, there was a lot of crime here because lined right here between 34th and 35th on Lisbon, there used to be some businesses that there was the Parkway Theater, the Parkway Video Store, there was George Webb, and then there was a bank here, and there was a lot of people from other areas that used to come here to frequent those businesses, and they would come and they would get robbed, basically on a daily basis. Their cars would get broken into, and and that was on a daily basis. There was a lot of crime in those days, and basically robbery and breaking into your car to take whatever goods you have there. In other words, like I say, we weren't the richest kids growing up, but it wouldn't be wise for you to pull up to the parking lot or on the side street over here with a 19-inch color TV in your car and go into the movie theater for 2 hours. You feel me? So that TV wouldn't be there when you got back.
How did you fit into all that? What was it like growing up around all that?
I fit in very well with all that. Very well.
Would you like to tell us more about your childhood?
That's about it. It was either doing that or on the basketball court.
Yeah.
And that was my daily going to school, if I went to school, coming back to participate in that.
Do you have any fond memories of your childhood? Anything you remember that you enjoyed when you were a kid?
That
You enjoyed it?
I swear to God I did, man. And I mean, I've changed a lot because there used to be a time that if it wasn't tied down, I was going to try to make it mine.
So how did that change come about, or when did that change
Well, it came about right around 19 years old. There was a group of us standing across the street from Dave's coffee shop. That used to be our hangout, which the house is no longer there. It's one of the houses that was torn down too, right next to the alley. That was our meeting ground. We used to be what was known back then as the Trey 4 Mob, 34th Street Mob, or Trey 4 Mob is what we called ourselves. And that's where we basically hung out and decided what we were going to do for the day. And on one particular night, I can't remember the date, but I was 19 years old, and the police had us under surveillance that we didn't know. They were, as a matter of fact, that building right there next to that coffee shop, upstairs, that was a vacant building at the time. and they were set up in there, and they were watching everything that we were doing that day, and they had undercover, unmarked cars parked around in strategic locations, and there was a particular robbery that went down, and I was with the group of guys that we approached this guy to rob him, and I saw there were about 10 guys that decided to go and get this guy all at one time. And so for some reason, I stepped back and I said, y'all can go ahead and have it. You know, it's too much, too many people. We were only getting at most a wallet, and who knows what it contained. Anywhere from zero to who knows how many dollars. But I stepped back, but then they bum rushed us. They came from everywhere. And I walked home. But about 20 minutes later, I got arrested. And as an adult, I was facing a strong arm robbery case. Well, long story short, I beat the case. But some of the guys who were convicted for that particular robbery ended up with 10 and 15 years. And then so I just stopped participating. And then, you know, we were 18, so now 18, 19 years old, now everybody is starting to move away from mother's house. And so we kind of disbanded in that time. And then that was the time where, you know, started looking for some honest employment. And that's where I got my first adult job making, you know, honest living. And that was at a place called, and I just had the damn name on my head. Well, anyway, I was chrome plating hydraulic rods and pistons. And I can't think of the name of that place if it was to save my life. But yeah, a few guys from the neighborhood, as a matter of fact, it was one family of brothers that worked at hydroplaters. They worked at hydroplaters, and they pulled me in with them. And so I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then that's when the social work thing came about. And I worked social work for 12, 13 years. And then some programs got phased out, and so therefore I got phased out.
How did you find out about that social work opportunity?
Well, somebody told me that there was an opening at Career Youth Development, and it was for victims assistance specialists, and that's where I was assisting victims of crime in the city of Milwaukee, and which is assisting victims of crime / a grief counselor. So I counseled pretty much all of the Jeffrey Dahmer victims and other victims of crime and survivors of homicide that, you know, I had to do a grief counseling workshop every Thursday evening. So pretty much anybody who had a family member that died, you know, from a homicide or regular old death, you know, if they felt like they needed grief counseling, they were welcome to come to our Thursday workshops. And I also provided one-on-one counseling when necessary or when needed.
So it sounds like you did 2 different kinds of helping people that have been the victim of a crime, but then also grief counseling.
Yes.
You want to talk about one of those for a moment? Tell me more about it. Like, you kind of noted the irony of the fact that you were helping victims of crime. What about the other one, the grief counseling? How did it feel doing that, helping people with that?
It made me feel good. It made me feel, in a sense, like I was giving back, because going in, I knew nothing about grief counseling. I just came off the street, you know, robbing people. And going into that, I had the mental capacity to learn from from the books and everything that were put in front of me on a very short turnaround, having no training at all, I think I did pretty damn good, and I'm quite sure my clients thought I did pretty damn good too. I don't know. I was just taking, what I've seen in life and just applying it toward that. Plus, I had a rundown of things that each workshop would be about, and so I'll take it home the weekend, study it, look at it throughout the week, and on Thursday I apply it to whatever the topic was in the workshop. And then I had the homicide detectives. One homicide detective would come in every week, and I also had a minister who'd come in. So we would pretty much work off of each other. In the beginning, I found that when I was asked the question, I would try to give the best answer I could, and then maybe the minister would pick it up and finish it, to wrap it all up. And then we had the detective, the homicide detective there, because, people wanted to know the progress on, have y'all caught this dude? I heard that he hangs out here, or, he would come in and also provide them information that, we have caught him. He's going, provide family members some closure on their cases, and then also to update them on what was going on with their case.
Did you discover some things about yourself doing that work? Did you discover some qualities about yourself you might not have realized you had in you, or some skills you might not have known you had when you did that grief counseling with people?
Well, I noticed that I was able to care about people, because for a while I didn't care about shit out there, And I was, I found myself being dedicated to it. When we were working with those Dahmer victims, just going to court alone, I'm dropping people off at 1 o'clock in the morning when they had that incident where they was trying to get those 2 officers removed from the police force. I don't know if you remember the Conrack sentencing phone incident where the 2 officers returned him to Jeffrey Dahmer, and then it was later, Dahmer made us aware that after they returned him later that night is when he killed him and chopped his body up. So, I found out I was, me dropping somebody off at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd be trying to rob somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, I found out that I was actually able to care for people. And once you find out that people appreciate what you're doing for them, it makes you care even more. You're more dedicated. I also ran a citywide alcohol and drug abuse prevention basketball league while I was working at CYD as the grief counselor. It's kind of like a 2-hat thing here. And, I had basketball teams. We won several first place trophies and some second place, but more first than second. And, after work, my shift was 10:30 a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. unless we had games. And then it would go until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. But sometimes when I got off at 7, we also ran an after-school meal program. And I didn't run it, but it was ran out of the agency that I worked for. And I had all the leftover little pints of milk or half pints of milk. I would bring them and I would give them to, a crate of them to this family, or I'd give a crate to that family. And, never thinking nothing of it, never thinking that these 9, 10-year-old boys who are now 18 and 19, 20 years old, when they come to me and say, Man, Tim, they used to say, man, Tim is cool, man. I remember when I was little, man, we wouldn't even have breakfast if dude wouldn't came through and gave us some milk, man. I didn't think back then that I would be hearing that today, you know. And those are friendships that you make for life. And, you know, I took that milk home to my family. But, you know, once you see people in need, and then you help them, and you see that they appreciate it. You know, like I said, it makes you care more. I used to drag these kids off the street corners selling drugs, and we go to the gym, and you know, hey man, come on, we got a game tonight, or they're already expecting me to come through to pick them up, and so I got the van driving around the city picking these guys up, and we go play basketball. And you know, if nothing else, those are 2 hours a total, because we played Thursdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are a combined maybe 5 or 6 hours that they weren't out selling drugs for that week, you know. But I knew they were out selling drugs because they didn't trust the locker rooms. So before they changed into their basketball clothes, I mean, I used to have to take rubber bands on my wrist because I knew that somebody wants me to hold $600. So I'd have to put a rubber band around. This other guy comes up with $400 or $500, you know, because that was their drug money. And so I don't give a damn. I don't care what you do out there. Let's win us a trophy right here. And so, I was pulling them off the street that way, and you know, it became fun to me, especially when we were winning. So you know, that makes you more dedicated. You know, when people show their appreciation, that makes you more dedicated. So I learned that I was able to have feelings for people again.
Do you recall any individuals that working with them, like on the basketball, and maybe they decided to start doing things differently, or maybe help them in some specific way?
You know, a lot of those guys, for one thing, they're all still living. I can't recall going to any one of my guys' funeral, and I've been to a lot of funerals, especially when I was working as a grief counselor. Excuse me. I had 1 to 2 funerals a week, and that was either from they were all from homicide. I can recall being at 2 funerals in particular that they said the guy who actually killed this guy showed up at the funeral. And it was a case of mistaken identity, but they chased this guy out of the funeral home, down the street and around the corner, shot and killed him. So now, a week or 2 later, I'm at this guy's funeral. I can remember another instance when we were at a funeral, and some guys who were attending the funeral said, "There go the motherfucker who shot him." And it's supposed to be a car riding past, but I'm inside of the funeral home, and all we hear is a lot of gunshots. And that was pretty much as scared as I ever been at a funeral, because not expecting this, and I'm sitting in the middle of this big ass crowd of people attending this boy's funeral, and we hear the gunshots. Nobody got shot or killed that day, but when that's the only entrance and exit, and everybody run to a damn wall and duck down, I mean, I was thinking that those people they were shooting away from the funeral home because they were shooting at this car that was going past. But I was thinking it was the other way around. I was thinking the car was shooting at the funeral home. So, you know, shit like that. But then you find yourself again at another funeral. You know, you don't let that deter you. You know, you keep going out and trying to help people. I don't even know what your question was, man.
It's all right.
Okay.
Are there ways in which the neighborhood has changed then over this time, over these decades?
Yeah, there's a there's no businesses over here anymore. There's a few, but if it's not a corner store or a liquor store, Dave running a coffee shop, that is one of the few unfranchised businesses that's up and operating around here. There's just nothing to do anymore. There used to be a time when after school, or we could the whole neighborhood would be right there at that playground down there. They had 4 full court basketball courts, and everybody stayed at those playgrounds, regardless of where the playground was. If you had 2 basketball courts, if you had 1 full court basketball court, you had 15 to 20 kids off the street right there. And, you don't get that no more. They had one incident where one young man got shot and killed on a basketball court. And so to stop everybody from going to the basketball court, now go around these schools and just take notice. There's only one rim on one end of the basketball courts. So with one rim, you can only get the most you can play. Well, the most we would play on one rim was a 3-on-3, and that's 6 people. If you got 2 rims, you can play a 3-on-3 and a 3-on-3, or you can play 1 5-on-5. So that's anywhere from 5 to 12 kids right there. Plus, you got 5 more waiting on the side who wants to play the next game. You don't get that anymore. And while you're walking around this neighborhood, pay attention to the schoolyards that you go to. You can't, all because of one person got killed. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, just because one person got killed, everybody else got, nothing to do. What they say, idle minds is the devil playground or some shit like that. I mean, they ain't got nothing to do. I found something to do, having something to do. I leave the basketball court and go do my thing on Lisbon. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people didn't leave the basketball court and go and, rob and steal. I can recall days when I stayed up to that damn playground, and as long as we had a light out there, it'd be 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and some of these kids, you'd be surprised at what they're doing at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, since they can't do that. So that has changed. And a lot of homeowners, I don't think they're sticking around much anymore.
Are there any other places in the neighborhood that are still able to act as any kind of refuge for people, or a good place, for people? Any other institutions in the neighborhood that are helping create a good place for people?
No. That gym, that church up there has a gym inside of it. They're not letting nobody up in there. The Salvation Army down there on 25th Street, they have a gym there. They're not letting nobody in there. There's St. Thomas Aquinas up here. They have a gym. They're not letting nobody in there. And these are all the places that we used to go to. They don't have no after school meal programs, and well, they might have an after school meal program now, but it's pretty much bag lunch here, get your ass out of here, that type of thing. We used to bag lunch it. That gave us the energy to want to play basketball again, because we wasn't eating much at home back then. So, there's no place around here that provides a refuge anymore. Maybe in the summertime they might have some, bullshit weekend camp thing going, but it's not like it used to be at all.
Is there a city pool in the neighborhood?
Yeah, Washington Park has a city pool. I think they're just beginning to open that. They might be. I think last week or the week before was their first week that they were. What did they open the week after Memorial Day or something like that? But you know how screwed up this weather has been. So yesterday and today is probably the first 2 days that I would probably want to go swimming. Those other days, shit, 70 degrees is not really ideal for me to be jumping in some cold ass water. You know. A day like today would be.
Is it the same people living in the neighborhood today as it was when you were a kid?
No, I wouldn't think so. Excuse me. When I was a kid, these were pretty houses around here, man. They had grass. The yards were kept neat, and that's not happening around here anymore. It seems that the homeowners have moved away. There's a lot of, you know, I don't know about you guys, but my my grandmother was about, when I was young, she was about 50, 60 years old when I was young. Over here, your grandmother, in a lot of cases, your grandmother at like 35 years old. So if your grandmother at 35, 40, that means if your grandmother at 35 years old, that means your daughter or son is probably, 15, 16, 17 years old. 35, 17, smoking weed together, you're drinking together, you're arguing together, you're fighting together. So it's nothing like when I was younger. We respected our elders and not to put no racial, thing on it, but we respected our black elders, especially the women. You don't get that no more. I mean, these kids here, they fight their parents, they cuss their parents. I don't think I would be here today if I ever cussed my mother, or if I ever did it, it would probably be something that would only happen once, because, like I said, I have 4 brothers, and at the time, that one that's deceased wasn't deceased then, and I am the smallest of all of my brothers. Maybe, they would have beat the shit out of me. I mean, they would have fucked me up. Damn, why am I cussing like this? But that's how emphatic I'm trying to be about what they would have done. They would have injured me, put it that way, okay? And so would I have to any one of them that would have did it. And not only any one of them that would have did it, but anybody in the street that would have done it. So you don't diss moms, and if you do, you pretty much, whoever mama you dissing, you're gonna get dealt with them. And then if you're dissing your own mother, some of your homies, they're gonna let you know that that's not cool. And you'd be ostracized doing shit like that, man. Especially from who we called ourselves, Trey for Mob. You don't diss moms like that, because we could go to any one of our homies' house and get a meal, get a place to sleep, and we knew where it came from. It came from mom, because dad wasn't too much around. And so those are people that you had to show respect to. You don't get that anymore these days. You just don't get it. And that's how, not just in this neighborhood, but all over the city, probably all over the world, especially in the black community, with all this weed and crack and all that shit. These people don't respect moms anymore, and if they could respect moms, things would be a lot better around here. That's what I'm thinking.
Do you have any thoughts on what might have changed in those years since you were a kid that might why these people behave differently?
Because, like I say, you know, the drugs, when the drugs were introduced, especially the crack cocaine, you know, you sell drugs to your mother. I mean, I've seen people out here who their mother get hooked on that shit, and then they say, you know, just say if I would ask you, man, how you sell that shit to your mother? Your response to me is like, well, she gonna buy it from someplace, she might as well buy it from me. And so, you know, with the crack came that type of attitude, and then now mama needs to find her way of getting high, and she don't have any money, she don't have a job, so she go out there and turn to prostitution. That's embarrassing. So you lose respect for your mother because she's out there, and then it could get even worse than that. Your mother can be a fine ass woman, and then boom, what she'll do to your buddy to get a few dollars from him. So now you really lost respect from her because your buddy is in your face telling you what your mother did. So, you know, and I believe once you lose respect for your mother, I believe that's what you know, kind of tore up our community over here. 'Cause there's a lot of prostitution. You don't see it now today. Quite sure you saw it the last time you was here. If you noticed anything, I mean, hell, how long can you wait on a damn bus? But they tore the bridge out down here. Now I used to sit on, well, I didn't used to, but I sit on the porch and I see a lot of action. You know, not action. I see what goes on around me. Put it that way. But I noticed last night when I was sitting on the porch, there was no traffic coming up Lisbon, and then it wasn't until my brother told me that, hell, they can't come up Lisbon. They tore the bridge out. And then I was like, oh, yeah, they were supposed to start their project Monday. Well, they didn't tear the bridge out yet, but they barricaded. You can't go through Lisbon. You got to go around someplace. I know the bus comes around here on 32nd Street. But, you know, there still is a lot of prostitution out there. But as of last night, when me and Dave was here pretty late, sanding stairs last night, and the floor is above us. And we were talking about it. There was no action out there last night. Maybe they should tear out more bridges. Shit, I don't know, but there was no prostitution jumping off last night. But you know, when your mother turns to that, and your sister turns to it, then there goes the neighborhood. You know. Nobody's at home cooking, therefore nobody's at home giving direction. Do this, do that, go to bed. How can you tell me to go to bed and you out there 1 or 2 o'clock? You don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I'm going to take just a moment and switch hands here. Can affect the way it sounds.
Okay.
Matt, sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna get going, and I don't want it to
Sure.
interrupt the audio.
So what's the time?
It's a little after 2.
All right, me as well.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Some of the students are involved in different ways, and it's just helpful for them to just be able to observe some of
Okay.
these stories.
All right.
Has the church played a role in your past, your upbringing, your current? Has it played a role in the community here that you've seen?
When I was, like I said, when I was younger, it did. As an adult, it hasn't. I mean, that church right there, they provided me with a place to go after school. This is when I was younger. Place to go after school, a meal to have after school. Actually, as I became an older teenager, it provided me with employment. Summer employment, but it was better than nothing, you know. And, but recently, no. That church hasn't done anything. That church don't even have a food pantry. I mean, and you know, I figure every church, you're getting all the damn free money. Every church should at least have a food pantry for, you know, the neighborhood in which they're working in. Food pantry, clothing bank, or something, you know. But there's nothing down there. I think he just opened those doors to collect some tithes and offerings on Sundays and Wednesdays and Fridays and Thursdays, and you know, he just opened the doors to get him some money, man. That's what I think.
Maybe I think I'll maybe ask you about the house a little bit too now, and then you could still just let that take you wherever, you know, whatever comes to mind for you, you know. It's obviously a place within the neighborhood. Do you remember this house? How long have you lived in this house now?
Well, I've only been here for a month and a half. A month and a half in this house, maybe 2 months. No, a month and a half. And I remember the house before. There was. I used to know some people that live here years ago, but recently, not much about this house. The house around the corner, I can give you a whole history on that one if we were talking about that house. But I've been here a month and a half. I've been trying to help Dave rehab it, get it back up to you know, to where he can do whatever he wants to do with it. And we're almost there. After the plumber on Thursday, I think we'll be pretty much where we want to be in the quick scheme of things. But you know, in the grand scheme, he has a lot more plans for you know, bringing this house back to life.
Do you remember when people have lived in here in the past? Do you remember if any of them ever owned the house that you knew of? Or
No, he was renting. This one guy in particular, he was renting. I believe he lived down here, and people who live upstairs, they probably had to be renting too. Because he never said anything about my landlord is around or my landlord lives upstairs. We used to have a few beers out front, but no, he wasn't the homeowner. And I don't believe those people who lived up there were the homeowners either.
Since you've been in the house, have you noticed anything about it that seemed interesting to you, or made you think anything about its past, or different? Just anything stand out? Did this house kind of tell you a story at all?
Not really. And like I say, I haven't been here long enough to. It's just a house that I'm trying to show some love to and bring it back to, you know, get it back to up to par.
When you're in some of these spaces on this floor or the upstairs or the basement, sometimes you notice there's different layers of flooring, or sometimes you notice different layers of paint. Do you get any impressions about its, you know, past, that there's been a lot of, you know, different people that have lived in it, or?
Not really. I know it sags toward the middle, and you know, that made me curious of wondering how old the house was, and make me curious that for it to look so good, why is it sagging? You know, I think the woodwork looks to be in pretty good condition. When I first came in, I was like, damn, this house, this is not a bad house. But then I saw the little sag in that cabinet in there. That made me wonder how old was the house. But other than that, I really don't, I haven't really thought about it. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same upstairs too, so, you know, that had me wondering. And it's just in that area. The rest of it, we put the level on it. The rest of the house is level. It's just that area that's sagging in the middle.
You notice that part of the front porch, it's got the burns in the floorboards?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
It made me wonder. No, I was thinking actually that maybe somebody was barbecuing on the porch, and maybe they barbecuing on the porch. Went inside for the evening after they were done cooking, and a few coals fell on it. That's what it looks like happened to me. But I'm no fire marshal, so that was my assumption. That a couple barbecue coals fell out onto it. Excuse me. This is Dave. One second.
Sure.
Hey, what's up, Dave? I'm sitting here in the interview. I don't know, maybe within the hour or so. All right, I'll give you. All right, bye bye. Yep. Let me move this away from here. No, but I don't notice about this house. No.
What about the unit above this one, or like in the attic? There's a strange kind of space in the attic, like there'd been a room up.
That little room up there. Yeah, I kind of think of because there was a lot of pigeon poop up there, and in that room, and I take it that was because somebody left the attic window open for a while, and I used to think that maybe at one point it probably could have looked or felt real spooky up there. With all the cobwebs up there and the pigeon poop, I was like, and just give you an eerie feeling when you go up there. Makes the house, when you're up there, it makes it seem older than it actually is, And that's pretty much how I really thought about it.
That makes me think about the fact that there are, speaking of spooky, some abandoned houses around the neighborhood. How do you feel about having seen so many houses kind of get torn down, get abandoned, get dilapidated, and then now you and other people are involved in fixing some up? There's some of the Habitat for Humanities, and how do you feel about seeing that kind of change?
You mean for the better? How do I feel about seeing them coming in and fixing the houses up?
Both ends of it. The fact that you saw this neighborhood kind of decline a little bit, and then you've seen people work on it again.
It makes me feel like there's hope for the neighborhood. When you don't have the abandoned houses, you don't have places where people can congregate for prostitution. People can congregate for either dealing in drugs or actually taking their or doing their drugs. And with home ownership, with new homeowners come a certain responsibility that if I'm occupying this house and I'm the new homeowner, and across the alley there's a burglary in progress, I'm not gonna stand for that because I don't want to be next. So now I'm gonna either report it to the police or might go over there and just my presence will deter and send you on someplace else. So I like the fact that I think it improves the quality of life in the neighborhood.
Do you ever find yourself in talking to kids today who are involved in crime or having living a kind of bad life around here, living the wrong way,
No.
you used to?
Not as far as counseling, like just say if a friend's child is, if I see him doing something that's, hey man, that's gonna either get you killed or end up in jail, I'll give him one of those little spills, but nothing in depth. I'll just tell him something, and pretty much be done with it. I'll leave it at that.
Do you ever feel in danger around this neighborhood these days? Do you ever feel like any of the younger people don't treat you with respect? Ever?
No, they all call me old school. They all call me school, but they call all older people around here old school or school. That's a certain kind of respect because I used to go to the school ground and when I first heard them calling me old school, it was because of the basketball court. I would go up there. They would think I couldn't play because I was older, But after that, you'd hear them say, "Hey man, I got old school. I want old school. You want to be on my team?" Shit like that. And then you'd see them same kids walking around, and they calling you old school. So my dumb ass was thinking that it was because of what I showed them on the basketball court, but who knows? It could be because I'm old. I'm old school. Because now I hear it more, and it's not just directed to me. It's to all old people. That's what younger people call the older generation of old school. At least the older generation of males. Yeah. And one guy around the corner, he had old school 2 on his license plates of his car. And that car got smacked up. Now he got old slick one on this license plate of the car that he got now. So, it's sometimes most times it's said with a little bit of respect. It kind of goes back to they don't respect their elders, but in some ways I look at it as a way of kind of acknowledging their elders, if not respecting them. I know a drop of a dime, they'll be doing something else to you if they could. But I don't feel as safe as I used to feel in this neighborhood. As a matter of fact, if I go to the gas station, I can't carry a gun, but I do a lot of work with my hands, as in, carpentry and all of that. So I usually have, and the only reason I don't have it on now is because I was coming out here to interview with you. But I have a straight razor, or carpenter's knife razor that flips out. I keep that on my side, and I also, at night when I walk to the gas station, or when I go about at night, I have a taser in my pocket. So, there used to be a time when I wouldn't carry neither one of those, but I see a lot of robberies going on nowadays. So I have to take that and try to use it for my protection.
I should have asked about this before when we were talking about it, but did you end up on paper when that Tray 4?
No, actually, I beat that charge in a jury trial, and that's why I didn't get any time. And I've never been to prison, or the longest I did in jail at one time was a 30-day commitment because of non-payment of child support. So, and that only happened one time. So, thank God to the social work thing that, that kind of pulled me away from that lifestyle for a lot of years until where, when a lot of my guys were going to prison, I was going to work. So I don't have an adult criminal record.
Yeah, I think I have a couple more really out of order questions like that. Like that social work job, when someone did tell you about that, they knew something about your past?
Well, she knew that I was kind of a intelligent guy in some ways, but that position required a bachelor's degree, and so I made myself a bachelor's degree, or at least a diploma, a certificate, and I went to the interview, and I got hired on the spot. And during the interview, I was asked, where did I get my degree from? I said Jackson State University, Jackson, Mississippi. And as she was going through my paperwork, she saw a black and white copy of a college diploma certificate that said my name in 1984 that I graduated Bachelor of Science. And she said, "Where's the original copy?" I said, "The original copy got burnt in the fire." And I just happened to have these copies on hand in a different location in the house. And they said, okay, and never asked me to produce it again. But as I went on, I worked for Career Youth Development. I worked for Journey House on the South Side. I worked for SDC. And I worked for Asha Family Services. Well, Asha Family Services laid me off. When I started applying for work at other social service agencies, these people were required, they didn't want to see no bullshit copy of a degree. The transcripts had to come directly from the university. I couldn't produce that. And so that kind of phased me out of the social work field altogether. And that was a 12-year lie, man, because one guy hired me based on the fact alone that me and him graduated from the same university, Jackson State University. I've never seen Jackson State University at that time in my life. Not only did he hire me based on that, but shit, we shared the same office. I used to get asked these Jackson State questions all the time from this cat, man. And I got so sick of that. That job only lasted 3 months because I moved on to something better. But then, in moving on to something better, there was another lady who was also a Jackson State alum. And she was asking, did you ever used to go to this place or that place? And told me I look familiar. I don't look familiar to you, woman. And then at Career Youth Development, this one guy, he used to always want me to go to them damn Auburn State and Jackson State University football games with him. Oh yeah, man, all Jackson State alum, we gonna be there, Rich. You going? He walking through the hall, JSU, and I used to have to put on the JSU and all that shit. I didn't even know what color the damn football team uniforms was, man. You know. I'm like, yeah, Marvell, I'm going. He said, you want me to get your ticket? You want me to get your tickets? I said, how much are they? He tell me how much they are, and I said, well, I'll give you the money Friday. And Friday, payday Friday comes up. I have to tell him something else came up. Man, I got to pay this bill, or I got to do that. My car notice due. I mean, so it was a 12-year lie that I used to have to face almost on a daily basis, man. And he came to my mother's funeral last September, and he asked me that question again. But I had, this was after the funeral. He asked me some shit about going somewhere. I said, Marvell, come here. Let me talk to you, man. Put my arm around his shoulder. We stepped off. I said, man, don't ask me about no damn Jackson State no more. Ever. He said, well, what's up, Tim? What's up, Tim? He thinking I'm depressed because my mother was just buried today. I said, man, I ain't never been no goddamn Jackson State a day in my life. He said, I said, man, I don't know shit about no damn Jackson State, man. He said, I thought you went to JSU. I said, man, that was something I put on that goddamn diploma. I said, I ain't never been no damn Jackson State University. Don't ask me about that damn school no more. I think I hurt his heart, but I'm free of this lie. I don't have to put up this facade every time I see this cat, man. So, do I wish I was still in social work? Yes. Did I get tired of that Jackson State thing? Yes. Having a bachelor's degree, and then, to see my coworkers who had, when I met them, had an associate's degree, then obtained a bachelor's degree, and now telling me, yeah, I think I'm going to go for my master's, and not only telling me they think they're going to go for their master's, but to actually start, going for their masters. And man, for them to be like, you should go back to school. Why don't you go back? You ain't going back to school. I'm like, so that type of shit make you sweat, And then to see people who are further in their education, sometimes, it made you look kind of stupid. So, so I was glad that was over.
This other question I had in mind is really going back again, but so when you were a minor and you were running around doing what you were doing, you probably got in trouble as a juvenile, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you kind of were you in the system a lot as a juvenile?
Yeah. There was one time when I was about 20 years old. I was working at hydroplaters. They came into the hydroplaters and they arrested me. They walked me out of there in cuffs. They told me that I had robbed it was a Chinese restaurant in the strip mall over there on Silver Spring. They told me that I had robbed the restaurant. And my coworkers are saying, no, he's been here all day. He clocked in at 2:00. He hasn't been anywhere. That was one day in particular where when I took my lunch half hour, I actually stayed on the premises because I brought lunch with me that day. And then so they took me down there and had me stand up and turn around. The lady told them I didn't do it. And so one of the cops that took me down there, he made a comment as he was bringing me back to my job. He said, sorry about this, that, and the other. And then he said, he said, you don't have an adult arrest record. He said, and this is pretty much a verbatim quote. He said, but your juvenile record is a fucking horror story. So that could probably answer your question. Yeah, I was in and out. I did a little time in Ethan Allen School for Boys. I did 11 months there. And so I was in and out. Group home here, placed outside the home there, maybe about 3 times placed outside the home. Plus I did the 11 months in Ethan Allen School for Boys. Yeah, I mean, shit. I've been through there as a juvenile.
When you did start doing the social work that you did, how did you feel working with police all of a sudden?
I felt good, like I was helping the community, like I was on their side now, to be able, they carried a lot of weight to, to stand side by side with a cop, shirt and tie, dressed just like him now. And like when they tore Dahmer's house down, there's a newspaper clip, and I don't have it now because it's been so many years. But I'm standing there with two of his victims' parents, and a homicide detective and a couple of preachers. And for all my friends and family to see that, it makes you feel good. The Jeffrey Dahmer documentary that they show on TV, or that they used to show on A&E, and every now and then you might be able to catch it. There's 3 or 4 spots where you see me standing there, or you see me talking there. You see me in motion. You don't hear it verbally because it's just a documentary. So, yeah, I mean, and then from my people, my friends and family, come back and say, yeah, man, I was watching TV the other day about Jeffrey Dahmer, and your ass come up on the screen like 3 or 4 times. Oh, you a movie star now. So, it gives you that made me feel cool when they came back, and, and it's not just, I can go anywhere and I can, people will come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, man, I was watching, they always say the same story. I was watching this thing about Jeffrey Dahmer, and I know where they're going, so I just wait for them. I said, yeah, man, I don't remember, I remember when I see the documentary, I remember the time and place, but I didn't never know that it was gonna make it to a documentary.
This morning is a word came to my mind as far as its ability to describe some people's story around here or some of what we see happening in this neighborhood. The word that came to my mind was restoration. Do you feel like you can identify with that word at all?
As in which way? As in the neighborhood, and the new homeowners, or the Habitat for Humanity coming in and doing the things that they do, or in some kind of spiritual way? I mean, how do you?
Well, that's the thing, is I was thinking about it in both ways. I was seeing what I felt like I was seeing examples of both in some people.
Well, can I identify with it? Yeah, in a way. I don't know if I'm on the right track, but what I see happening to the neighborhood, I wish I could be more involved in it. I wish I could have, I wish I was able to be one of these homeowners. I wish I could have made it where my mother could have saw a better ending. Because her house around the corner where I grew up at, it was taken from her by the city. Well, actually, it was taken after she deceased, but that was one of the reasons why I believe her health was failing so bad, because of the stress that she was also, not only her physical health, but the stress of knowing that while she's sitting in the house, laying in the hospital bed for a few months, that she had to have that stress. That she knew, her property is going to be taken. Yeah, she had to deal with that on her way out. Even if she would have made it home, she wouldn't even had it home. Let's hold on for a minute, man.
Now, what is the file name on that one that you're doing?
STE001. Aren't you able to pause it? Were you able to ever pause it?
I didn't need to today.
Yeah. Oh.
Do you see it?
No. I've got an hour
I
and
did it
50.
yesterday.
Got an hour and 50 remaining. I can just let it run. Yeah, but see, when I'm doing it now, I press it and it's just marking the spot. So I don't want to stop it, make a new file. It's probably just gonna run for this for like 5 minutes.
What's your time?
One 1 hour 12 minutes is approximately when we went to the break.
Just let me know.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Do you have are there any questions that come to your mind you feel like I should ask? Because I feel like we should probably wrap it up real soon.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
So you haven't been, while you've been sitting here listening, you haven't had come to your mind any thoughts of like, oh, we should ask this? I thought I had a couple of thoughts. One was to ask, you want to take a few minutes for a cigarette, or?
I just had a little bit more. I'm good. Yeah, so that was one thing that I wish I could have been able to I wish she would have been able to come home to a home and to see some of the things that was going on in the neighborhood, because pretty much for the last year and a half of her life she was sick, in and out of hospitals, and I always I used to always walk past these houses and like, damn, I wish Mama could have been able to be the recipient of one of them, or something, have a stroke of luck or something where I would be able to give her a place like that. And other than that, I'm glad to see what's happening in the neighborhood. I just wish that she would have been able to be around to see it too.
Yeah, you seem to think of the idea of ownership when you think of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Do you, other than the idea of actually owning a home yourself, do you see yourself having a sense of ownership in the neighborhood, though?
In a way, I do, because a lot of people see the work that I do, and they see on different businesses, like I painted several buildings on Lisbon, and I've painted a couple of houses around the neighborhood, and make me have a sense of pride, because almost like helping to beautify the neighborhood, and then people identify with the work that I've done, and as a before and after type thing, and they tell me how nice the place look, or yeah, Tim, y'all brought that house back. 6 months ago, a year ago, that house was raggedy as hell. And I also work with a realtor who rehab houses, and it's outside of this neighborhood. He's like throughout the city, and so people see me all over, because I was at one time high profile when I was in the social work, and it's sometimes kind of, well, it used to be kind of embarrassing for them to see me doing that type of work, knowing that a few years back, every time they saw me, I was in a shirt and tie and doing my thing with the social work. And for them to see me in the painted up blue jeans and the painted up T-shirts, I'm quite sure some of them say, "Damn, what happened to him?" But I feel good about what I do when I do it, and shit. In a lot of cases, I make more hourly money than I did in social work. It just wasn't as consistent as it was as the social work. I mean, I was up every day, 5 or 6 days a week going to work. Here, you got to get in where you fit in it. So.
Do you have any memories of the neighborhood that like bring to mind like memories of a smell or sights, interesting things you saw, or some really kind of like sensory experience, sounds?
I was thinking like that not long ago, but I can't remember what the hell I was thinking about. I probably more or less sights because I was looking at some pictures of some old family photos, and one in particular, I could see the background of the house that was across the street from the house where I lived at on Walnut, and they had the gate or the fence and the evergreen bushes, the grass at that time of year on the background of this picture. The grass was thick and green. I mean, forest green. And it just looked so nice. And I was like, damn, I remember when Miss Irene and Roy lived there. And now the house today, the evergreens have been removed and the grass just don't grow there. I don't know if it's because the trees have matured and blocked out the sun, or I know there hasn't been any grass planted there, but there just isn't any grass over there. And when I look at things like that, I kind of think back to what used to be. And then when I walk down Lisbon Avenue, they got this big apartment building up there now, and 2 years ago it was a laundromat and a parking lot. Well, it was a vacant laundromat and what used to be the laundromat's parking lot. And you're like, damn, where did everything go? That corner right there on 34th and Lisbon that used to have a 7-story apartment building with a bank located on the first floor. That's all grass now. I mean, there's a lot of things that used to be here that are just not here anymore. We used to joke that if a person did 12 years in prison and he was sat out on that corner on 34th and Lisbon on a blindfold, he probably wouldn't even know where the hell he was. He wouldn't know where the hell he was because nothing is there anymore that used to be there. Nothing.
Does that change you've seen bring up any feelings for you? Make you feel anything?
Not really, because when those business establishments were there, that's when the crime was here. Although I was a part of that crime, hell, the generation that coming up now is not participating in that crime, So it's kind of a win-lose. I wish they were still here because, it would have created more jobs for the people around here. But, that's like 5 or 6 business establishments that's gone. You figure 1, maybe 2 jobs per business, it would have did something for somebody, Some of us would have been employed there. There's just nothing around, man. A bunch of hanging out and drinking beer, shit like that. Kind of a sense of loss for the community, basically.
You mentioned again, the part you had in the crime when you were a teenager. Do you feel, as you've gone on in your life, have you carried regret about that?
No. Honestly, no. Although it was a lot of robbery, it was a lot of breaking and entering into cars. There was no, there was probably some emotional scarring to the victim, but there was pretty much no physical hurt to a person. There was some loss, and that was money, shit that could be replaced, but there was no life lost. Basically, the police called it strong arm robbery. It was more as theft from person because, we didn't beat anybody up. We'd walk up to you and demand money, no weapons in hand, you just felt like you had to do it because you was outnumbered. And we'd run up, and the average person suspected there was going to be something about to go down right now, and so they're trying to get to a safe place, meaning inside the business that they're trying to frequent in the first place, or to their car. And the only thing, one of the things that we used to do is we'd catch up to you, and we just rip your back pocket off. That was the new thing to do, because now it was for sure theft from person. It wasn't strong arm robbery. And there was a lot of difference in the time that you can get if you were convicted. Strong arm robbery, I think they used to carry like 10 to 20 years. That was as an adult. As a juvenile, maybe 6 months at Ethan Allen School for Boys. I did 11. Average 1 year, Ethan Allen School for Boys, for something like that. And, we just went up, rip your pocket, or if you were in there, we break in your car. So it was just about, putting money in my pocket. It wasn't, I'm not holding a gun to anybody's head, never held a gun to anybody's head, and robbing them that way, or having to, beat you down for a wallet. Nah, pretty much you were going to give up the wallet, and we almost knew it. You might try to run, but that's when, while you're running, that's when we're going to grab that pocket and pull it, and it's going to come. Even if it has to take your whole pant leg out in the back, that wallet was coming.
I have just one last question in mind I can think of. Do you feel hope for the neighborhood?
Yeah, I do. Especially around here, because I counted the other day, I think there were like 11 new houses that Habitat put in. Like 11, maybe 12 new houses between this block and the next one over, and one block down. Those are going to be homeowners, and those are going to be people who's going to care about their property, and they're going to make other people start to care about their property. Because I can already see that since Habitat has started building those houses, other people have come out and painted a porch here, rebuilt a porch there, painted a house there, plant grass. They know Habitat is coming in with that beautiful lawn, whenever they decide to lay it down. And so now these people are starting to cut grass, pick up around their house. So yeah, I see hope. And then you can also see people saying, go over there and pick up that paper you just dropped. Now the kid is going to learn that I can't just throw my shit anywhere I want to, so it make the neighborhood look cleaner. When I have ownership to my property, that's going to make the person next door who's renting have a sense of ownership, and they're going to take care of their shit too. That's what I believe.
Am I forgetting anything? Maybe what we could do now is just, like I said, I think Blake would like to take a picture of you in your house, inside or outside, or wherever you might like to be.
We can take one on the porch if you want to, outside.
If you ain't sitting on the porch, that'd be good. Okay. That's your favorite chair?
Yeah, it is right now, because where else am I gonna sit? You're living alone, so you tend to do a lot of porch sitting. Mm-hmm. It ain't like you can come in and color up to the old wife. As long as there's no beer bottles. Or
Yeah, I'm all the best.
yeah, I know. But not in this particular case. you or what?
Oh no, I mean whatever you want. Formal, casual. I like it like this. I think it's good. I think that's good. You know. You good, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that wraps it up. So, like I said, we'll have that kind of document about the house that we'll share with you later. We'll give to you. You know, hopefully, have we ever communicated with you by email or just by phone?
Just by phone.
Did you ever do email or?
Yeah.
You know, I think by phone we'll make a point of getting back in touch with you later and like at least reminding you too about this exhibit that we're going to do, an exhibition we're going to do of these like boards, kind of like posters that we make of the different stories that we put together.
Okay.
It'll be at the Washington Park Partners, you know, at 40th and Lisbon.
Right, yeah.
It's in that, what is it, Methodist
That
Church
building.
complex or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
July 25th. I forget what day of the week that is, but in the evening, you know, from like 4 o'clock on,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have that exhibit going so people can come in and see the stories that we put together, including yours and all these other people in the neighborhood. You know, there's probably gonna be like 70 or 80 or something of those stories we put together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that. And if you want to write down the email address, you could.
You do use email sometimes?
Sometime, but I don't get many emails. I'm not important anymore.
I'm ready. I got it.
All right, it's T Rich 33 at Yahoo.
TRich33 Yahoo.
And do you need us?
Yeah, I do.
I thought you had a. Oh,
Guess I have everything else. Okay, thanks very much. And again, Tim, thanks so much for your time,
no problem, man.
telling your story
Alright.
to us, and letting us, you know, tromp around your house as much as we did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice meeting you.
All right, man.
Have a good one.
You too. Hope you guys have a good day. Stay out of the week.
All right.
Every Dave. I think he wants me to do some more. All right, fellas.
Have a good one.
Yeah.